In this video, I'm going to take you through the step-by-step process on how to build a Vapi AI voice assistant that can do the vast majority of jobs that a real estate agent would have to do on a daily basis. It's going to search for properties for the caller, it's going to find empty slots in the calendar, and it's going to book them into the calendar. So without further ado, let's give you a demo. So firstly, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Over here, we have a couple of properties, and I'm going to ask the voice agent for a 3-bedroom property in Manchester for 300,000. And it should be able to come to this Google Sheet and find that property, which is a 3-bedroom property in Manchester for roughly around this price range. There's another property, which is this Manchester property down here, and it should mention that one as well. When I try to book in, I'm going to mention a time at 10 a.m. on Wednesday. It should detect in my calendar that this Wednesday 10 a.m. is booked. Then we'll try another time and it should be able to book us into that calendar. So let's give it a go over here on Vapi.
This is Red Rock Real Estate. How can I help?
Hi, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom property in Manchester for around 300,000.
What area in Manchester are you interested in?
Any area is fine.
How about the number of bathrooms you need?
It's not too important.
I found a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom property at 45 Oxford Road for £285,000. Would you like to view it?
Yeah, that one is perfect. Can you book me in for a viewing this Wednesday at 10 a.m.?
That time isn't available, but I have 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Would that work for you?
Can you check if 3 p.m. this Wednesday is available?
3 p.m. is busy, but I can offer you 2 p.m. or 4 p.m. on Wednesday. Which works better for you?
Yeah, sure. Let's do 4 p.m.
Great. What's your name?
Name is John and my number is 083 314 5999.
You're booked in for 4 p.m. on Wednesday at 45 Oxford Road. I'll send you a confirmation shortly.
Okay, so over there you've seen it was able to firstly find a property for us within our specific parameters. Then it was able to check and detect that the time was busy and it booked us into this time over here. And if we go in here, you can see view and booked for 45 Oxford Road. And we even have the location in here, in which if I click in here, I can go directly to the property. And we can include the caller in this Google event. So whenever it's time to leave and go to this property viewing, they can immediately see the locations right here and get directions to the property. So without further ado, let's get straight into this and teach you how to build this. To start off, firstly, we need to come over here to Vapi and build the base, which is the voice agent. Now over here on Vapi, you'll come over here, press create new assistant, and then you will have to select all of your configurations in here. For me, I'm using OpenAI and I'm using GPT-4o mini cluster. There's a range of different models you can use. It's really just a matter of weighing out the pros and cons of smart, cheap, fast, slow. But for me, I like to choose GPT-4 mini cluster. It's fast, as you can see, one of the fastest ones, and it's very cheap. So I'm going to select this one. I'm going to select for the assistant to speak first, and we're going to say, hello, this is Red Rock Real Estate, how can I help? Now in here is where we give the system message, which is essentially the personality of this AI agent. Some crucial things here is we give it a personality: warm, helpful, professional, keep responses short, ask one question at a time. Core rules is 1 question per response. After asking a question, stop talking, don't add extra information. This stops the voice agent from sounding extremely robotic. We say be proactive. If they find properties they like, push to book a viewing. Collect information gradually, never repeat information back unless confirming a booking. A crucial thing to add to this prompt is today is, and then we add this variable right here, which is essentially telling this voice agent what time is it right now and in the country and area that we are in. So in here we would add Europe, London, but if you wanted to find what you should add, you would come over here to Vapi now variables, and in here you can see all of the variables that you can use for Vapi. If we scroll down here, you can see these variables are automatically filled based on the current UTC time, so you don't need to set them manually in the variable values. So in here we give it all of this information, and for us we want to set a specific time. So as you can see down here, if you want to set a date and time in your country code, then you would come in here and copy this and just swap this out for whichever country you are in. So that's why we're using that, so it gets the correct date and time. And we need to do that for stuff like if I say, hey, can you book me in a viewing next Friday? It needs to know what day is it now and what date is next Friday, so it can calculate all of that information. Then in the workflow, we say obviously initial greeting. For the property search that we did at the start of this video, we need to ask for a location, then ask for bedrooms, their budget, and if relevant, the amount of bathrooms that they need. Then we're going to use the search properties tool, which is going to trigger N8N to find properties. If the user likes the property or just wants to book a viewing, then they can use the book a viewing tool, which we can see down here. We tell it to ask what is the best date and time for you, and also to collect the user's phone number. The rest of this is just information, giving it good and bad responses. So just some examples. We have how to pronounce the prices, because AI usually has a tough time pronouncing prices. Now for this full prompt, all of the N8N workflows, you can click the first link in the description to join my community for completely free to download this prompt and all of the N8N workflows that we're going to use in this video, so you don't have to build anything for yourself. Now in here, after we've given it this prompt, we need to come down here and select a voice configuration, which you can choose any of these realistically. I think Vappy and 11 Labs are the best ones. I'm going to use 11 Labs Flash 2.5, which is essentially how quick can 11 Labs create the voice or create the text to speech. And then down here for the transcriber, I am going to use DeepGram Nova 3. That seems to be the best one. Now for this voice agent, if we were to call this right now without any tools added to it, it would basically just respond back to us. Wouldn't be able to check the Google Sheet, wouldn't be able to add anything to the Google Calendar. So what we're going to do now is give it access to tools. So as you can see over here, I've already given it access to them 3 tools that we used at the start of the video, which is search for properties, get any free times in my calendar, and also book people in for viewings. To create these 3 tools, we need to come over here to this section over here called the tools section. And in this section, the first one we need to create is this search properties tool. Now in this tool section, we need to give the tool a name, which we're going to give it over here, search_properties, and give it a description, which is search our property database to find homes matching the customer's requirements, return a list of properties with their address and details. So this is going to find the properties that the user is looking for. We scroll down here and we give it some parameters. This is what we're going to send over to N8N, so it knows what type of property we need to find for this user. You can see we give it access to 4 parameters here, and to add a parameter, you can come down here and select add property. And when you add a property, you need to give it a name, a description, and what type of property is that. In the area one, this is basically the area that the user is looking for. So this is going to be area, type is string, and this is the location where the customer wants to find a property. For example, Manchester, Dublin. If they even give a postcode, we can use that. The next one we're going to have is the budget, and this one is a number type, and this is going to be the maximum price the customer is willing to pay. If they give a range like 250 to 300k, then use the upper limit and output just the number, which is 300,000. Only include if mentioned. The next one we have is a bedrooms. It's going to be a number, and this is the number of bedrooms required. Only include if mentioned, obviously if the user mentions it on the call. And also for bathrooms, number of bathrooms, only included if mentioned. Now that's the full tool basically done. Now what we need to do down here is add a server in which we're going to send all of that information over to find the actual property that this user is looking for. So over here on N8N, we need to come over here and create this workflow. The first thing we need to do is add a webhook node, and in this webhook node, N8N obviously gives us our URLs. For me, I'm going to use the test URL. If I was making this live or giving it to a client or putting it anyway in production, then we would have to use this production URL, so we don't have to trigger this workflow when we want it to run. So over here, I'm going to select this test URL, copy it, bring it back out, and I'm going to paste it in here. When I paste it in here, I'm going to click save. And now this tool is going to be able to trigger this N8N workflow whenever the user wants to search for properties. So what we're going to do now, quickly before we start building it in N8N, is we're going to come back out here to the assistant, and we need to make sure we give access to this tool. So I'm going to come over here to the tools section in the assistant, and make sure you scroll down here to find the search properties tool and give it access to that. So you'll give it access, come back out here and press publish, and now the tool is ready to go for this assistant. Now over here in the property search tool, we need to do a couple of things. When the Vappy assistant triggers this tool, we're going to receive information over here, which is going to look like this, and it's going to and it's going to send over the area, which is Manchester, the budget, which is 300,000, and the amount of bedrooms that the user is looking for, which was 3 bedrooms. Now we can use this in the rest of the workflow to find the properties for that user. So the next thing we're going to do is connect up to this get rows in a Google Sheet. And this is going to be this sheet over here where we have the database of all of these properties. So come over here to Google Sheets. Again, this will be in the community so you don't have to do it. Come over here to Google Sheets and create a database like this, just as a demo one, or if you're building this for a client, then use their database. And in here we'll have address, area, bedrooms, bathrooms, price, and a description of the property. Then over here, we're just going to basically get all of the rows in that Google Sheet. So we're going to use the get rows in Google Sheet. We're going to select that Google Sheet, which is the properties, which is called Properties YouTube. And this is going to be sheet number 1. And when we run this, you can see it returns the 15 items which is in that sheet. And as you can see, we have all of the items here. If we click into the table, we have all of the rows which is in that Google Sheet. The next thing we need to do is, as you can see over here, it outputs 15 items. What we want to do is aggregate them so we get one item only. So we're going to add an aggregate node, and in here the put output field is just going to be kept as data. The aggregate option up here is going to be all item data into a single list, and we are going to include all fields. So when I run this now, you're going to see this is going to turn from 15 items into one item over here. So if I run this, you can see it now turns into one item over this side. And if we come in here, you can see we have all of the information of them properties in which we can use in this next node over here, which is going to be an AI node. This AI node is going to be tasked with finding the exact property that the user is looking for. So we have a system prompt down here in which we give it them instructions. And in here we say, you are a property address matching specialist. Your job is to find the closest matching property from the available properties list on what the user mentions and return its full details. The task is a list of available properties and a reference property sheet. Your job is to identify which property they are referring to. Matching rules: match on street names, match on area/neighborhood, match on, obviously, if they say Manchester or London or Texas, match on that. And then we can match on partial addresses and so on. The output format is essentially just output everything that you find or any properties that you find. And this is an example of what we want you to output: the address, bedrooms, bathrooms, price. Over here you can see the description of the property. Important rules: return as a single conversational string, include all details, no extra formatting if multiple properties, separate with a double line break. That's exactly what we want this to do. And then up here in the user message, we give it all of the information that we receive, firstly from the tool call, and secondly from the Google Sheet node. So up here you can see we give it the user preferences, which is the area, bedrooms, bathrooms, and budget. And we're going to get that information from the webhook node, which sends over the user's information. So if I click in here, we can close these headers. And if we come down here to the tool calls, we have the area, budget, bedroom, and we're going to bring them up here and drop them up here for the AI to have access to. Down here you can see here's the properties we have, in which we will give it the aggregated node over here. So we're going to come over here, grab the full data node like this. We're going to bring it down and we're going to drop it into here. Except we need to do a couple of things with this. We need to add this onto the start of it. So we're going to add on json.stringify. So I'll do it just below this. We're going to add on, firstly, we're going to add on json.stringify, and then we're going to add a bracket, small bracket, and after this we're going to add a colon, and we're going to say null/2. And this is basically just format, and you don't have to really understand what this is. I may have made a mistake here. Made a mistake over here. Make this, has to be all caps. And what that does is basically formats whatever this aggregate node outputs, it formats it nicely. So to show you what it looks like if we didn't do this, if I get rid of this now and I just bring over the aggregate node, you can see over here it just outputs object, object, object. It's just a complete mess. The JSON doesn't know how to format it, so it outputs all of these objects. Now if we put in what I just typed out and what I showed you, if we paste that in here, now we get all of the properties neatly formatted like this. The row number, the address, area, bedrooms, bathrooms, etc. You can see we have all of the properties for the prompt. And now this prompt has access to everything it needs, and it can output a property. So if I run this right now, it should very quickly be able to output. And on this side, you can see 45 Oxford, which is the property we spoke about at the start of this video. Now, the model I'm going to use for this is Gemini 2.5 Flash Lite. And the reason is because we need something that's extremely fast. We don't want people on the call to be waiting for a couple of minutes like maybe Claude would take, or something that's a little too smart for our use for this use case. We just need something that's extremely quick at finding specific details, and Claude 2.5 or Claude 2.0 Flash Lite is perfect for me to do this. After we output the information of what the user is looking for, then we're going to use a respond to webhook node. Over here in the respond to webhook node, in every time we are responding back to Vappy to send back over the information, we need to use this format right here where we say results, tool call ID, and the actual result we want to send back over. Again, left in the description below so you can get it for yourself. In here, we need to put in the tool call ID. So for this, we need to swap this out with the actual tool call ID. And to get that, we're going to come down here into the webhook. Whatever Vappy sent over, you can see we have tool calls and we have the ID right here. I'm going to drop that in here, and then it has access to that tool call. And then for the response, we need to give it access to this LLM chain. So I'm going to bring that down here, and it will look something like this. Except, as you can see, if we just put this in, then it's going to output something like this, which Vappy doesn't like. Vappy doesn't like these page breaks, and it gets an error. So over here, I'm going to get rid of this. And when we are putting this in, we are going to use the JSON.text, exactly what I brought out, exactly this from over here. And then at the end of it, we're going to use replace with all of this information right here. Now, obviously, you can ask ChatGPT to do this. Basically, just tell ChatGPT to remove all JSON characters so Vappy doesn't get an error when we send it back over, and it will output this for you. If you don't want to do that, then just copy and paste this from the video, maybe screenshot it and bring this over. And we need to do this so Vappy is able to accept the information back over to the voice agent. And the voice agent would now know that this is a property that matches the user preferences. That's this tool completely finished, and that's the hardest part of this build done. One thing you need to make sure, a lot of people trip up on, is over here, select this as HTTP post. The response is going to be using the respond to webhook node. That's one thing you need to make sure. We can click save, and then we can test this out by clicking execute, talking to the AI agent and asking it about a specific property, and it's going to trigger this and find a property for you. The next thing we need to do for this Vappy agent is give access to finding open slots in my calendar. So again, we're going to come over here to the tools section, and we're going to create this check viewing availability. And this is going to be obviously this name. And the description of this is check if a specific date and time slot is available in our calendar for property viewing. This retrieves the full day schedule and returns whether the requested time is free plus all other time slots for that day if the requested time is busy. Down here, we give access to these three parameters, which is very simple: date, time, and property ID. We actually do not need the property ID for this use case, so I'm going to delete that. And over here in the date, you can see it says we're saying date. It's going to be a string, and we're going to say the description for this parameter is the date for this viewing in year, month, day, formatted exactly like this. If the customer says tomorrow, calculate tomorrow's date. If they say Thursday, convert that to the actual date, which is in this format. Next one we have is time, which is just the same thing. We say time in string, and we say the specific time the user wants to book. And we say use the 24-hour format. We give it some examples like this. Convert from 12-hour to 24-hour format. We're going to click save on this. And again, like we did in the previous step, we need to add a server URL. For this one, we're going to use this right here. Obviously, come in here to the webhook, make sure it's post, copy this server URL. I'm going to bring it back over to Vappy, paste it in here, and now it's ready to go. It's going to trigger this workflow whenever it needs to find open slots in the calendar. If we click in here, when Vappy triggers this, you can see it's going to send over the date and the time, also the property ID, which is going to be the address. Because we're only checking for the viewing times, we don't actually need the address for this. If you wanted to check for the viewing times for a specific property, then that's when you would use the actual property ID. Then the next node we are going to use is the Google Calendar Get Many Events. In this node, we're going to select obviously the calendar that you want to use from this drop down. After you've connected your calendar to N8N, In here, we wanted to find all of the free and busy times on the actual date that the user has requested. We don't want to just find it for the time that they've requested. We want to find it for the whole day, just because if there's a specific time taken out of that day, like the one that the user has asked for, we want the AI agent to be able to have access to the full day. So we can say something like, no, 10 a.m. has been taken, but we have 2 a.m. available or 2 p.m. available. So what we do over here is we bring over the date only. We don't need the time. We're going to bring over the date. We're going to drop it in here. And we're going to add this onto the end, which basically means find any time after the first hour of that day and find any times before the last hour of that day, which is T 23:59:59. So this is going to find all of the free and empty times within the whole length of that day. And as you can see over here, it outputs this, which is going to find any events that is taken from that day. This outputs 3 events. Again, we're going to use this aggregate node so we only get one item. And over here, we're going to select individual fields. In the individual fields, we wanted to use the start date and time. So I'm going to bring that over, drop it in here, and it will look something like this. And then the output is going to look like this, where it gives us all of the events that are taken, or all of the start times of the events taken on that day. We can feed this into the AI or to the voice assistant so it knows all of the busy times on that day. So you can see the aggregate node outputs one item, and over here we have this, which is crucial. This is going to detect if there's no viewing time for the suggested time that the user asked for, then you can just immediately say, yes, that time is ready to book. If there is viewing times, then we're going to send it down a specific path. So in this section here, I can get rid of this and show you what goes in. We're going to put in the aggregated node, the full section. I'm going to bring it over, except you can see it outputs all of the dates. We don't need the dates because we're only selecting the time right now, because we need to find which times has an event. So in here, we're going to get rid of this and we're going to paste this instead. And this date and time, and when we put this map time split, when we put all of this string at the end here, it's going to turn them from that array that we used to have into just the times that are taken. The next thing we're going to use is array contains, and then we're going to select the time in which the user sent over from the webhook, or which VAPI sent over from the webhook that the user is suggesting. So we're going to bring that time over here, drop it in here. And what this is essentially going to do is find all of the busy time slots specifically from the calendar on that date. It's going to output them like this, and we're going to say if any of the busy time slots contains the time that the user is asking about, then choose true. And if it chooses true, then obviously that time is taken. So we're going to send over to the voice agent, that time is busy, here's the busy times for that day, and we're going to drop in this over here. We don't need to change anything. And we're going to say assume 45-minute per time slot, suggest 3 times or another date. In this node, if the output times does not contain the time that the user is asking about, then we know that that time is free in the calendar. So we can choose this section down here, which is basically going to respond back to the webhook, obviously using the tool call ID like I mentioned in the past scenario. And we're going to say the result, that time is free, continue to booking. So it's instructing the AI agent or the voice agent on knowing that that time is free, you can continue. So we're going to click save, and don't forget to come over here to your assistant after you've created this tool and give it access. So come into your assistant, come over to the tool section and give it access to that check viewing availability. Last one we need to do, which is the easiest one, is the book viewing. So over here again, we're going to come over here to the tool section. We're going to create a new tool. This is going to be book a confirmed viewing appointment for a customer at a specific property. Only use this after the check availability tool. Down here for the parameters, it's going to be relatively the same as the last tool, where we have output the date in this format. We also have output the time in this specific format, the time that the user is looking to book for. And then over here we have the property address. This is the different one where we say the full address of the property the customer wants to view. Use the exact address from the property search results as stated by the customer. This is required. So we're going to apply this, and now this tool is ready to go. Like in the other tools, we need to get this URL, and which you will get from your Anytime workflow. Over here we have a webhook. We're going to copy this, bring it back over and drop it in the server URL section. When this is triggered by the VAPI assistant, again, make sure this is post and use and response webhook. When VAPI triggers this, it's going to send over the date, the time, and the address, in which we're very simply going to create an event over here using the Google Calendar. And over here, we are going to put in the date right here. We're going to put in a T because Google Calendar needs to know which one is the time. So you put in a capital T and then you put in the time, which you will again get from the tool over here, time and date right here. And then at the end of the time, because VAPI formats it like this, we need to just add another colon and 00 at the end. For the end time, we've got one of them expressions again, which is date time from ISO JSON body message. So we're basically going to copy all of this. We're going to put it in here, and then we're going to ask ChatGPT, just like I did over here. I'm going to give it the normal one, and I'm going to say add 45 minutes to this expression, and then it's going to output something like this. And it's basically just going to add an end time, which is 45 minutes away from the start. So each booking is going to be about 45 minutes long. Then over here, we're going to add a field, and we're going to add in the location and summary. And in the location, we're just going to put in the property address that we get from the tool. And for the summary, which is going to be just the title of the booking, we're going to say viewing booking. And we're going to just put in the address from the webhook node. So that's the full build done. I can click save on this. Make sure I come over here to VAPI, back over to my assistant to give it access to all three of them tools. And when we give it access to all three of them tools, it's ready for you to test, and you have a full built real estate voice agent that can handle the vast majority of calls that real estate agents receive. If you like that video, you want to start your own AI automation agency and scale it to over 100k per month, like I've done with my agency, click the second link in the description, which is my paid community. If you want to download all of the prompts and templates in this video, click the first link where you can join my free community, and I give it all away for free.